Before the video starts, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into it.
Every single night of the day. Hey, bafethu. We are back. We are back. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't thank you for subscribing. If you subscribe, if you haven't subscribed, please welcome to the channel. If you're new to this channel, please make sure you do like. Make sure you like, you comment, and you subscribe. Of course, today we are dealing with drug dealers today. Yeah. I never thought that I would be the one reacting to drug dealers. Today's dealer, I'm a drug dealer. Pablo, Escobar, and who? Yeah, that other one. Who was it? El Chapo. The other time I reacted to prisoners. This is the second time reacting to crime, basically. Crime documentaries and stuff like that. So, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Yeah, I see you are growing finally. Oh yeah, sorry about that, guys. I had to pick my brother was calling me. So yeah. Anyways, and I told you that I'm recording with the phone. So yeah. As I was saying, thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you for showing love. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the love that you keep on showing me. Yeah, but yeah, we're growing eventually. Though we're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. Hopefully, we will reach it sooner or later, but bottom line, we will reach it. So that being said, let's get into this documentary. I'm a drug dealer.
The world of drug trafficking has been dominated by two groups in the last 50 years. The dreaded Medellin and the Sinaloa cartels of Mexico. More famous than the cartels, however, were their notorious leaders. The Medellin's Pablo Escobar and Sinaloa's Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Their reigns have ended, no doubt.
Oh, El Chapo Guzman. How? So that word comes from El Chapo Guzman. Boy.
Escobar in a bloody shootout in December 1993, and El Chapo's arrest in 2016, where he was extradited to the U.S. and sentenced to jail for a very long time. But in their time, both were an unstoppable force in South America. Between the two, who was the richer and more powerful? Let's find out. The rise to crime. Escobar. The one thing that both drug lords had in common was their rags to riches story. Both came from...
Now my question is, dog, how do you even think of a drug which is like this or something like that? Like, okay, let me start a drug business and like, hey, people will be addicted and stuff like that. Hey, I don't care it, dog. I don't understand. I never bought, but hey, let's see.
From humble beginnings, and both grew up in drug-infested communities that influenced them to choose a life of crime. Both were sons of farmers, but while Escobar's father was a regular farmer, Guzman's father was already farming marijuana on his own plantation in the village of La Tuna, Sinaloa, Mexico. Escobar's poverty and life in Medellin was harsh. He was a street thug in his early teens, robbing cars, until he graduated to working as a kidnapper and bodyguard for drug smugglers like Alvaro Prieto, who operated in the Medellin and wanted to earn $1 million by the age of 22. For Escobar, it was a stepping stone to a life of untold riches, fame, violence, and crime. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Guzman, on the other hand, fed up with his father squandering away the family earnings, opened his own marijuana farm when he was a teenager, along with 4 cousins. Not satisfied with the money
How? So Guzman started off selling weed, DJ. How? Stop saying marijuana, guys. It's weed. How? I don't understand why you keep... Say weed, dog. You know why are you giving it a fancy name, marijuana, dog? No, it's weed, dog. I'm a lambo, dog. Plants, dog.
He was making. He ultimately went to work for his uncle, who introduced him to the higher-ups in the cartels of Mexico. Guzman began working for drug lord Hector El Güero Palma, who ran a syndicate that transported drugs from Mexico to the USA. Guzman's job was to make sure the consignments were transported safely across the border. It was during this time that Guzman's notoriety gained popularity as a man who did not tolerate failure and eliminated enemies and double-crossers without a second thought. Who was most powerful? Pablo Escobar and Joaquin Guzman may have ruled over the drug trade in South America at different timelines, but their climb to the top was similar and marked a world of competition, vendettas, shocking violence, unspeakable and horrific crimes, and tons of wealth. It was Escobar's death and the downfall of Medellin in the early 90s that made Guzman the most powerful drug lord of South America. But when you compare the two in terms of power, it is Escobar who held an edge over El Chapo. Escobar enjoyed a lot of political patronage and government support for almost the entirety of his drug trafficking career. Pablo Escobar enjoyed government support. Pablo Escobar was so powerful, he even got himself elected to the Chamber of Representatives of Colombia. He engaged heavily in politics and bribed.
How? What? Hey, man. Hey, I'm learning new things today. I was like, man, I thought to go to Pablo Escobar. I thought it was from Mexico, bro. I'm not going to lie. I thought this bro was from Mexico. And this is from Colombia. How?
Judges, policemen, and politicians. He cared little for social status, and as much as he patronized them with money, anyone opposing him would be dealt with swiftly. He led by the principle of bullet or bribe, and it was folly for anyone to refuse the latter. Believe it or not, but Escobar was also the official representative of the Colombian government for the swearing-in of Felipe González in Spain. El Chapo lived by the gun. Guzman, on the other hand, did not enjoy much political clout, but was always wanted by Mexican authorities, especially after eliminating a top DEA agent, Enrique Camarena Salazar. Guzman was always living in different locations in South America, including Guadalajara. However, he gained more notoriety than Escobar. Guzman was forever involved with feuds and wars with opponents. The Tijuana cartel, run by the Arellano Felix clan especially, was one of his worst enemies, and the violence between the two left only a pile of bodies in its wake. The feuding between Guzman and the Arellano Felix brothers was a bloody one that lasted more than 6 months. It went too far when the Cardinal of Guadalajara, Juan Jesus Posadas Ocampo, fell to one of their bullets, caught in a crossfire during a shootout between Guzman and Felix outside Guadalajara International Airport. An enraged Mexican government launched a manhunt for all those involved in the attack, including Guzman. Escobar, on the other hand, enjoyed so much government support that upon pressure from the DEA, the Colombian government put Escobar in prison on his own terms. The prison was a 5-star one made by Escobar himself, which he called the Cathedral. It was a clear mockery of justice.
Hey, man. There's a song called Cathedral by Macklemore and Ray Lewis. You know, it talks about drugs and stuff, alcohol. Can this be a reference to this thing? The women and stuff. Bruh. Yo, I feel like I'm in a history lesson today, dog. I'm not going to lie to you, bruh. Yeah, check that song out. Tell me what you think also. It's Neon Cathedral. The Cathedral. By Macklemore and Ryan Lewis. Check that song from the album The Heist. The Heist, yeah! Oh, ha! Okay, now I get it. Now I understand now. The album was called The Heist. Okay, Neon Cathedral. Yeah, you get what I'm trying to say. I can't pronounce this word, but Cathedral. Yeah. Ha! But dog, I don't think it was that deep, cow. And I very also, if these guys, people are making music, they in the music industry, then an album is a meaning. I never knew that this meaning, or it was related to some sort of tracks or something like that. But now I'm thinking of the title now, the album, The Heist. Yeah, bruh.
But this was Pablo Escobar, and no government official wanted to be involved in his arrest or incarceration. Their drug empire. Both drug lords worked in different markets. Pablo Escobar concentrated mostly on cocaine. He was a bit more organized than El Chapo, had more control over his empire, and he influenced almost everyone in the country, which led to smoother operations. Escobar was hardly challenged, and that worked in his favor. El Chapo, on the other hand, went the whole hog and dealt with marijuana, cocaine, ecstasy, heroin, and crystal methamphetamine. Escobar's organized way of trafficking drugs was so successful that by the 70s, he was the world's biggest cocaine producer. And by the early 80s, he was shipping hundreds of millions of dollars worth of cocaine to the voracious U.S. market. However, it is difficult to put an exact figure on his net.
So, Pablo made money from the United States, basically. The United States was the one giving this program made me. One country on its own made this brother a multi or a billionaire or something like the richest drug dealer. One country, dog. Dog. Imagine if it took taken over Africa.
Net worth, although it ran into the billions. Escobar earned billions. Escobar became one of the most powerful men in the world and was making more than $420 million a week. By the mid-80s,
A week for 20 million. I'm sure his kids are still eating up till this day, dog, from this man. There's no way, dog. Me, if I was this child, me, I wouldn't even work a single life in my day. I'm not going to lie to you. I wouldn't even. Hey, chief. 420 million, 420 million a week.
he was making 22.
So basically, in 2 weeks or a month, it's $1 billion, dog, on your hand, just like this.
$1 billion a year. By the
22 billion. Is that after taxes and stuff, all those things?
end of the 80s, Medellin, under Escobar, was supplying 80% of the world's cocaine and smuggling 15 tons of it into the U.S. every day. Escobar was so influential that he even featured on Forbes' billionaire list with a net worth of $3 billion in 1993. In today's market value, that would be around $6.6 billion. However, Escobar's son, Sebastian Marroquin, went on record to rubbish the figures of Forbes in 2011, saying Forbes hadn't even come close. He also said it wasn't possible to establish a figure from drug trafficking, as mobsters never keep accounts.
Okay, so my bro is living nice, most. So you're telling me that that's actually not the actual money which the father was generating, dog. So it's actually more, dog. More. Me if I was his son, dog. Me I'll be eating nice, dog.
Least of all his father, Pablo Escobar. Escobar's brother Roberto once said that Escobar was making so much money every year, they would write off 10% of the money because rats were eating the money in storage. And this conjures up a scene from the Will Smith film, Bad Boys 2, where the drug lord's money was being eaten by rats in his storage. Maybe they were influenced by Escobar. El Chapo's billions. When Guzman was arrested in 2019, he too was the wealthiest and most powerful drug lord in Mexico. The fact that Medellin had collapsed by this time gave Guzman the opportunity to exploit the entire market. Guzman was smuggling tons of cocaine shipments from Colombia and Mexico to the United States. He used all modes of transport, land, sea, and air, with a clever network of distribution cells throughout Mexico. He was also importing heroin from Southeast Asia, and together with cocaine, Mexican methamphetamine and marijuana was pushing it into the USA. Guzman was known as godfather of the drug world. By the early 2000s, Guzman became a billionaire. He was ranked the 10th richest man in all of Mexico. To add to his billions, he even established a shipping and transport empire, although it may have been a front for transporting his drugs. And that's quite an intelligent business to think of, especially when logistics and transport is the prime focus of a business like Guzman's.
So he's still eating till this day, was even the family from a logistic company, dog. Because this is the thing, dog, logistics and stuff like that, you make money, dog. Transport and logistics, I'm telling you, dog.
Well,
If I think pros who are in finance should invest in these things. I don't know. If you're in finance or in business, what business management or something like that, my brother, logistics and transport, what management, you make money there, trust me, dog.
Escobar was more the typical businessman type, albeit a dangerous and cold-blooded
You see what I'm saying?
one. Guzman was more mafia. The DEA referred to him as the godfather of the drug world, and he has often been regarded as the biggest drug lord of all time. Many feel he was far more powerful and dangerous than Pablo Escobar, and is the first one after Al Capone to be named public enemy #1 because of his criminal activity in Chicago, even though he had never actually been there. Guzman used the power vacuum created by the cartels in Colombia. As soon as the Mexican government cracked down on his rivals, he stepped in and took over. Guzman was ruthless and always went unscathed from government action. By now, the Sinaloa cartel was controlling 35% of the cocaine produced in Colombia, and according to the DEA, it was supplying 80% of the heroin, cocaine, marijuana, and methamphetamine to the Chicago region of the U.S.
80%. 80%, dog. I say,
each year. They loved spending. When it came to spending, both men loved splurging their wealth, and obviously so because they were making it faster than lightning. If rats were eating their money, then it was better to spend. Witnesses testifying against Guzman at his trial said he had purchased 4 jets, a ranch in every state, including his family one in Acapulco that cost $10 million. He also owned a yacht named Chapito. Guzman even owned a house on every major beach and his own private zoo in Guadalajara. On his ranch, he even kept wild animals like tigers, lions, panthers, and deer. Escobar donated huge amounts to charity. As for Pablo Escobar, the man was making so much cash, he would stash it away in Colombian farming fields, dilapidated warehouses, and in the walls of cartel members' homes. Escobar loved lavish living, but he was smart too. He donated a sizable amount into the community and built several facilities for the poor who lived in Medellin. He built schools, hospitals, soccer fields, and parks, and handed out money to the poor. This won him the hearts of the people, which is why he garnered so much public support. When the DEA asked the Colombian government to imprison Escobar, the man agreed that it would be in his own prison called the Cathedral. It was equipped with amenities like a jacuzzi, a waterfall, a full bar, and a soccer field. Their end. There was a common fact that bound the fates of both men, and that is that they went too far. Escobar's blatant drug trafficking attracted American action, and finally the Colombian government couldn't protect him anymore. Escobar's reign of terror and violence came to an end when he attempted to resist arrest. His drug trafficking angered the Colombian government, which by now had realized what Pablo Escobar really was. When the DEA and the Colombian officials said enough is enough, Escobar made several attempts to get back through his contacts, but unfortunately for him, it was the wrong thing to do. A task force by the Colombian government ended in a shootout which killed Escobar. Guzman's final arrest. Joaquin Guzman was luckier than Escobar. Guzman was arrested 3 times and escaped. Finally, in 2016, he was again arrested by the DEA in an operation called Black Swan that included 17 Marines from Mexican Special Forces, the Mexican Army, and the police. Guzman was extradited to the USA in 2017, where he was tried by a New York court and sentenced to life imprisonment and an additional 30 years. It is unlikely he will ever come.
Guys, what's the point of sending someone to prison, say life in prison, then additional 30 years? What's the point? What does life in prison mean, dog? I don't understand. You're like, oh, life in prison, plus 50 years, dog. That's all your life, most. You're not getting out, dog. Why are you putting in a plus 50 years? Why are you putting that emphasis on that 50 or 30 years, dog? Life in prison simply means you are not getting out. Simple. That's it. You people, these charges, dog. I don't
Come out of jail.
understand.
So what do you think? El Chapo or Pablo Escobar? Tell us in the comments below. And don't forget
Chapo. I think it's El Chapo, bro. Man, I won't lie, I think El Chapo is the one. He had a villa in every state. He has a zoo, ranches, dog, property, dog. Property on its own, really, we are set for life. If we invest in property, we are set for life, dog. We can't be, dog. Regardless whether the money is coming or stuff like that. Also, this proves that he's business minded, also. So you have to think about that other part. You're like, okay, this bro is still making money while he's still in prison. Think about that, dog. El Chapo is still making money while he's still in prison. So I will say El Chapo, dog. Pablo, my brother, we rest in peace there. No, don't rest in peace. Hey, you deserve to die. You died. So yeah. Anyways, guys, tell me what you think also in the comment section. I saw it the other day. This thing, I'm like, I should read to it and see what do my people think or what do they say. But yeah, with that being said, yeah. See you in the next one, guys. Make sure you like, comment, and you subscribe. And yeah, thank you.